I'm going to pull up a few different videos that were sent to me. So the first one that was sent was actually through Twitter, and what we're going to look at is contact and exactly how the foot should fit up on the ball at contact. So I'm going to zoom in here in a second and kind of talk through exactly what I'm looking at and what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit, give it a little bit better angle. Here we go. So first thing I see is the ankle position. So it looks to me that this toe is actually pointed up towards the shin of the leg. You really want to make sure that toe is extended and locked straight in the backswing, so your leg is long as possible so you have much torque coming through it. So that's the first thing I see. What I do like is when I'm looking at the angle of his leg right here, I'm seeing a simultaneously lockout of the leg at contact of the ball. That looks good right there. That foot flexion, that leg lockout, that extension with that straight leg and that pointed toe at contact is exactly what you want. So lock toe, lock leg, and he's pretty strong over here on his plant leg as well, which is all going to set him up for success. So now let's look at contact. So as you can see, that toe is locked now, straight leg as well. And it really depends on your swing and how fluid you are and how you're striking the sweet spot of the ball with how your foot fits up. So for here, I think the technique looks pretty good. This reminds me of a lot of Justin Tucker, how he likes to have his foot almost parallel with the ground. He might actually roll his foot forward more, so he's striking more with his laces, but he's trying to actually keep his foot parallel with the ground. Now, that's not the only way. Some guys like to have it more of an angle, and some of it really depends on how close your plant foot is from that spot. So the closer your plant foot is to, let me pull out of here. The closer your plant foot is to the ball, the straighter your foot is probably going to need to stay. And then for other guys that like a little bit wider plant foot, the angle of their foot can be down a little bit more as well. But there's a couple different ways to hit the ball. At the end of the day, it's how are you fitting up your foot on the ball properly. But overall, I think this is good technique. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see the finish. So you see how this toe comes up right here? Watch how it flips up. Toe comes up. We got to stay strong, okay? All right, so we got some workouts we do on virtual kicking that are really strengthening not only the calf, but the shin as well to really keep that leg and that foot strong and stiff through the swing. So James, really what you want to work on is that toe extension through the ball a little bit longer. Don't let that toe come up on you. And you see how this toe goes point straight and around? The way your foot is here is the way it should stay on the follow through, right? So if there was a tunnel here, right, you want your foot to stay on that line as long as possible where yours falls off and that toe points. And then ultimately what happens is we get too much hip rotation on the finish. So you can see how flat this follow through is coming around. See how flat we are coming around? When really we want to finish up and through a little bit higher on our follow through. All right, next is the hip rotation. So right here, you can see the hips are turning, the foot's turning, everything's pulling left, okay? So we're not doing a good job, right, as far as carrying our momentum down the field. It looks like we're coming, and I'm looking right here at his plant foot, he's coming pretty much straight left on his skip. When in reality, we want to work down the field a little bit. And the reason we want to do that is it takes more momentum and it allows this follow through to stay straight. Right now, his follow through bails out. right? If we skip downfield, that follow through will stay straight, so that ball stays straighter, and also we're going to get a little bit higher height on our field goals, because college coaches are looking at that. Not only do they want it straight, but they want it as high as possible as well. While that's loading, I'm going to pull out and go to the video library for drills and talk through something that James, you could fix with that toe flexion. Okay, and one thing I like is this push through drill right here. The push through drill is really from contact to follow through. You're trying to keep your foot on the ball the same exact way every time, pushing up and through the ball. So you want somebody to hold it. We're on a line so we can mirror it, pushing up and through the ball. So this is Justin Dunkel. He's a kicker at the University of Virginia, kickoff guy. Let's go ahead and have a look at one of his field goals. Obviously, a Division I leg, you see how high, how far that ball stays. So let's break some things down. So first thing I want to talk about is his body position. Notice that nice leaning forward towards his target. Next is everything's going facing the ball. Everything's going towards the ball. That's key. And then let's look at his toes. Right? His right foot is at the ball. His left foot is at where his plant foot wants to be. So what you can do is to really help yourself align is keep your toes pointed to where you want them to end up. Now there's plenty of NFL guys and other successful people that have their toe out here. All right. I just think it's simpler, right, for a majority of people to keep their toes going where they want to go. Because once your toes open, then your hips start opening back and forth, and then you have a swing that's coming around too much. All right, so for him, he has a little jab, picks it up and down. I'm looking right here. All right, a little jab, picks it up. Pretty good right there to bring your momentum to the ball. Now let's get to the ball. It's a pretty big jump he's doing here. All right, one thing I see is because we're jumping to that ball, his hips and his body are really dropping down, really compressing to the ground. There's a lot of weight on that left foot. That's going to get him a little bit of trouble. So notice how he goes, he kind of jumps and kind of crunches a little bit here. So what I'm seeing is more of a curl of the body. Instead, I would really like to see a nice, tall, straight line. So really the longer and taller you stay, the cleaner that swing is going to be, the more accurate it's going to be. When you get into this crunch situation here, a lot of the times our hips bail out, and then ultimately our follow through and the ball are going to pull left as well, because our follow through is going to follow our hips. And let's see the finish. So notice that toe is pointed, toe is locked, his eyes are down. I do like these eyes down here a little longer. That looks good. It also looked like that left shoulder is pointed towards where he wants that ball to go a little longer. Now let's see what his skip is at the finish. Yeah, notice this skip. We're going from here. We're really bailing out left. So one of my coaching points would be, we're so much pressure on this plant foot because we're jumping into the ball that we're staying in place too long. Instead, we should be transitioning our weight down the field a little bit more. So one thing I would suggest to Justin is to either shorten up his steps or speed them up so that this last step is a little smaller, so there's less weight right there on his plant leg, so that it gets off the ground a little better and he slides downfield. Because right now he's drifting left, when in reality we want him to be working here down the field a little bit longer. But he does an incredible job of straightening that leg, very strong. Notice how that finish, nice straight follow through, really good on that follow through, nice body control, great height. Nice job. Now let's look at a kickoff. So for kickoffs, we're going to look at Justin Dunkel. He's a kicker kickoff specialist for University of Virginia. He sent some of his film to me to review. Let's go ahead and have a look here. So the first thing I want to look at is his plant foot. And really when you're thinking about kickoffs, is you want to make sure that that heel is hitting and it's rolling to the ball of the foot. You're transitioning the weight up and through. You don't want to be flat or that the ball of your foot to hit first because you stay in the ground too long. So we're going heel toe, which looks pretty good to me. That's good. Next, let's look at contact. Not bad. I want the straight. So for contact, we're looking for a straight leg, pointed toe, staying stiff. So a couple points. I like how stiff he is here. That leg looks straight. And man, let's zoom in on that ball. That looks like a pretty good angle when we're talking about his foot flexion as well. And the higher you keep your heel up on kickoffs, the more it's going to focus, the more pressure and tension it's going to put on that quad. So that's sometimes where I've seen kids be more successful, is keeping, instead of having your toe here, have your toe pointed down a little bit more. That forces more power to come from your quad, similar to a punt. All right. So I really like that. But one thing I do want to tell Justin to work on, right, is this curl that we see here. You can see his hips bailing out to the side. That means we're losing power off to the side. I want to be nice and tall and long, take my momentum through the ball towards my target. Because if you have the ability to kick on a line, so this line that we're looking at right here, this orange line, right? His follow through should land somewhere on this orange line. This is because we want to take our momentum downfield from our steps through the ball. So if we're right footed, we don't want to finish off to our left. We want to continue rolling towards our right. And so you see where he finishes, like I said before, your follow through follows your hips, right? Your foot follows your hips. If his hips are bailing out, then his follow through is bailing out too. So he's losing a lot of momentum off to the side. If you're doing the same thing, to really fix that, you want to stay nice and tall here and really try to go heel toe a little bit better, transition your momentum downfield and really frame that follow through at the end a little better. So let's go and look at a drill I think will be helpful. All right, so I'm going to go to the kickoff drills. From there, the one thing I want to do is run through the cone. So the drill run through the cone, you want to place a cone about 5 yards in front of you. And what you're trying to do is give yourself a physical spot that you're swinging to, and then you're trying to carry your momentum towards it. If you're right-footed, you're going to roll to the right of it. If you're left-footed, then you're going to obviously roll to the left of it. But you're trying to take your momentum from your steps through the ball, staying to the right of the cone. Up and through, coming to the right of the cone. So you want to take your momentums from your steps through the ball and then keep drifting to the right. Take your momentum as much as you can through the ball. Don't let yourself come off to the side. All right, so let's have a look at Aiden Alves. He's a full scholarship punter at Liberty. So as you can tell, based on his alignment, is he's going directional right. He's going towards the sideline. His feet are already starting that way. His body position is already that way as well. So maybe if you're a directional punter, keeping your feet there, keeping your body square is one way to do it. There's a couple different ways. This is one way that he's been very successful at doing his directional punts. All right, let's run through this. So the first thing I always like my players to do is I never want, wherever you catch it, you want to get to the shelf right away. So if this is the shelf, right? If this is the table that your drop is carrying on, if you catch it above it, you put it on that shelf. If you catch it below it, you put it to the shelf. You don't want to catch above, bring below the shelf, and then bring back up. You want to put it on there right away. So here, I see him bring the ball down and then bring it back up. Right? I want to catch it and mold it right there, right away. The next thing, let's have a look at that drop. I think Aiden has done an incredible job of keeping that ball nice and flat, turned in slightly. All right, depending on what he's doing, he could have that nose down as well. Body position wise, we've been really working on this off arm, right? So it doesn't open up as much and turn his upper body. So as you can see right here, he's doing an awesome job staying square with his shoulders, nice and parallel, staying forward, driving through the ball. Really good extension there. Notice, let's zoom out a little bit, how straight that leg is, how tall he is staying through that swing. Great flexibility. All right, if you're not stretching, you've got to stretch. It builds your range of motion so you have the ability to be more consistent. Let's look at one more. Now this one's from the side. All right, here we go. So this is another angle of Aiden from the side. Notice he's filming from his kicking leg side. So that's very key when you're taking virtual coaching film, is film from the side that you are punting. So one thing I would absolutely say is when we catch it, don't let that ball come in and stay low. We need to get that ball molded right away because it's not molded till there, right? We've already finished our first step, and then this this offhand is coming off the ball before we're actually molding the ball. We want to catch and set it right away as quick as possible. Let's have a look at that off arm. So one thing you got to work on as a punter too is work on this off arm. Don't let the off arm come back so far that it turns your shoulders and turns your upper body. You want to stay nice and square towards that ball, going directly forward at the ball. One thing I want to highlight here that he does an awesome job, notice that flat first step, right on the balls of his foot. Really good job. Notice the position of his body, nice lean. His shoulders are over his toes is a term we use, shoulders over the toes. That's good as well. All right, and on the finish, right, let's see that ball come out of his hand. Perfectly still, no movement at all. The one thing I would say is I think this ball finishes a little inside of him. Because he didn't mold it right away. It looks like it's sitting on the palm of his hand instead of on his fingertips. But this position looks awesome right here. This is picture perfect. Leaning forward, shoulders over our toes in a more athletic position. We don't want to be tall or falling back at all. Notice that finish right there, guys. That's really what you want, right? Nice and high, nice and tall, using his length to his advantage. For all you guys, you want to do that as well. You want to stay nice and long and tall to use the length to your advantage. All right, so I want to go to one punt drill before we finish, just to add to it. All right, it's the catch and mold, 2 steps, and the drop. So this is something that I would tell Aiden to do. So the way this drill works, it's a catch and mold, 2 steps, and drop. You're standing on the line, and the idea is that you catch and get it right to where you want it to be, right to that shelf, right to that table, right away, and then you're on your line. And the reason we're on a line when we do it is so we can stay straight and organized with our body position. Everything stays in line. And just to add to that, just finishing with a drop. 2 catch and mold, 2 steps, and then drop it, making sure everything stays in line. We don't want to catch it on one side and then be taking our steps and bring it across to to the right side.